It was just a color out of space, a frightful messenger from unformed realms of infinity beyond all nature as we know it, from realms whose mere existence stuns the brain and numbs us with the black extra-cosmic gulfs it throws open before our frenzied eyes. Welcome to Chasing Epiphanies, the channel where knowledge is power and the pursuit of wisdom is celebrated for its own sake. My name's Marco, and today we are staring into the bottomless abyss. Lovecraftian horror, also known as cosmic horror, is a special type of terrifying tale, one that emphasizes the fear of the great unknown, things beyond our comprehension that turn all our knowledge upside down. We'd all like to think that we're in control of our lives, but once in a while, the universe reminds us that no matter how far up in the world we may rise, we're still only a tiny speck in our vast universe. Arguably, Lovecraft's most well-known saying by far would be this one. The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is the fear of the unknown. But let's explore this notion further, and compare the feeling that's being conveyed in that quote with this one. Pleasure to me is wonder, the unexplored, the unexpected, the thing that is hidden and the changeless thing that lurks behind the superficial mutability. To trace the remote in the immediate, the eternal in the ephemeral, the past in the present, the infinite in the finite. Taking this into consideration, it seems like Lovecraft actually associated the unknown, the unexplored, the unexpected, not only with fear, but also with a giddy sense of wonder and curiosity. In The Love of Ruins, a book that discusses Lovecraft's letters in the form of a letter exchange between the two authors no less, they point out that the horror genre, in Lovecraft's time, was also considered to be part of so-called tales of wonder, made to stimulate our imagination and fancy. Our culture has since then shifted more so toward finding horror in things that are more familiar and close to home, such as natural disasters, animals, people with mental illnesses, and the next-door serial killer. Personally, I would go as far as to say that even when the horror comes from something supernatural in films today, they rarely try to be awe-inspiring. The threat is immediate and visceral, giving little time to think about the nature of these horrors. Do we ever question the inner workings of Michael Myers and his apparent immortality? Nope. Do characters in ghost stories ever ask themselves of the spiritual implications when faced with the existence of ghosts and demons? That'd be a negative. A clear exception to this rule, though, that illustrates what I mean, would be the 2016 movie Arrival. Here, the conflict with aliens can't just be boiled down to, oh, they're gonna kill humanity and we have to stop them. No. The way they're portrayed and the way their actions cause conflict, it's all designed to make you wonder about more complex questions. What does this mean? What would happen if this technology fell in the wrong hands? And if this revelation is true, then what about this possibility, and this, and that? With every mystery solved, only more questions arise. This particular feeling to encounter the extraordinary could be said to be an exploration of what philosophers refer to as the Sublime. This philosophical concept of the sublime is something so great and ineffable that we can't even begin to describe it, as it exceeds our human understanding of the world. To even attempt to fully understand the sublime is impossible, as the feeling is, by its very definition, indescribable. Not that people haven't tried. The first written record of the sublime dates back to ancient Greece, where it was mainly defined as a certain excellence in language, something so expressive and compelling that it would bring out passion and emotion in the audience. It wasn't until the 18th century, though, that the term was popularized by Edmund Burke's book, Philosophical Inquiry into the Origin of Our Ideas of the Sublime and Beautiful. Not a guy with much of a naming sense, was he? Anyway, his word-for-word definition of the sublime would be Whatever is fitted in any sort to excite the ideas of pain and danger, whatever is in any sort terrible, or is conversant about terrible objects, or operates in a manner analogous to terror. Burke very much believed that the sublime would inspire terror in people, since fear is among the strongest of emotions, yet he also considered that there's a certain pleasure in how it compels us. Compare the sublime to that cozy feeling of hearing the smatter of rain against the windowsill, hearing thunder rumbling in the distance, a force of nature that could strike you dead in an instant, or that feeling when watching a suspenseful horror movie or speeding along on a roller coaster ride. In all these instances, you're taking in the spectacle from the safety of your seat. You might even call it comfortable. Another way the sublime has been described is by comparing it to the ocean, immense in its size, so much so that we can't fully grasp its greatness. Imagine yourself floating along on a raft, so far out that no land can be seen on any horizon. The waves are shifting constantly. You might wonder about just how many thousand tons of water is being rearranged at any given second that you're staring off into the distance, pulled along by its movements, powerless to resist its whims. If a great wave was to swallow you whole, you'd have no choice but to fruitlessly resist as you fade into the deepest of depths. Not to mention the unknown life forms that reside beneath the surface. You might imagine plenty of animals that have made the ocean their home, from tiny mackerels and shrimp to terrifying white sharks and killer whales. But those are just a tiny fragment of our knowledge. To this day, more than 80% of the ocean floor remains unmapped. We're still far from discovering all the ocean's secrets. For all you know, something completely alien has been staring up at you from underneath the surface. Sitting there, with your imagination running off and thinking of all the mysterious dangers lurking underneath. You might, however, still find solace in the fact that you're at a safe distance from all of it, as long as you stay on your little raft. There's that distinct pleasure of the sublime, to feel insignificant in a way that's more humbling than anything else. Perhaps to someone like HP Lovecraft, the universe was his ocean. Perhaps it's not entirely a coincidence that so many of his creatures resemble our earthly marine life. In its stunning magnitude, perhaps his fascination with the unknown left room for more than just fear, but also joy. Were I to grow sober and introspective, I should describe mine own nature as tripartite, my interests consisting in three parallel and dissociated groups. A. Love of the strange and fantastic. B. Love of the abstract truth and of scientific logic. C. Love of the ancient and the permanent. Sundry combinations of these three strains will probably account for all my odd tastes and eccentricities. The title of this book, The Love of Ruins, is inspired by this particular part of this quote. C. Love of the ancient and the permanent. Or as they interpret it, a love for ruins, the last permanent remains of something ancient. This is where the waters get, murky. Many of Lovecraft's stories depict the ruins of bygone eras and lost civilizations. It was commonly known that he was influenced by particular pieces of writing revolving around the degeneracy and the decline of Western civilization. From Gibbon's Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire to Oswald Spengler's The Decline of the West. I would highly recommend The Love of Ruins as it goes into far more detailed analysis of topics regarding Lovecraft's more scandalous ideas about race, civilization, as well as how his mind may have changed in his later years. But for the sake of staying on topic, there's just one idea I'd like to highlight here. Lovecraft was well known for being interested in architecture. In one of his earlier stories, Memory, we listen in on a conversation between a demon and a genie. They wonder about who it was that in ancient times erected these desolate ruins they now stand in. The demon remembers that they were called man, but can only vaguely recall that they resembled the apes that now live in the ruins. In this story, the fall of civilization is part of a sublime terror. It inspires a certain unease and melancholy at the idea that one day humanity might simply be gone forever. In light of that, let us go back to these two quotes from earlier. The fear of the unknown contrasted by the love of things strange and fantastic, abstract truths and science, the ancient and the permanent. We see that love and fear are two sides of the same coin, both born from the sublime. We fear the unknown because it's dangerous and indescribable. Yet we love the unknown because we're curious and it fills us with dreams of what might have been and what might be. His stories often have characters that go insane from biting the forbidden apple of knowledge. And yet I'd argue that even more than that, these tales are capable of awakening an appreciation for the unknown, exactly because they evoke this feeling of the sublime. It shows you your insignificance to humble you. It lets you vicariously see through the eyes of someone terrified of the unknown, while you, the reader, may walk away with more and more pieces of the puzzle. In that sense, Lovecraft's writing lets us glimpse at the sublime from a safe distance, leaving us with a choice to either reject it or embrace it. And that is why Lovecraftian horror might just leave you more sane than you were before you started reading. It's an idea that might be of significance outside our reading habits as well. When we look back at ancient ruins of our past, we can't help but let our minds dream of fantastic vistas and events. This can help us solidify an image of our history and culture, connecting it to the sublime, which, as we've established, can strike us with fear when we imagine our darkest hours, or inspire us with wonder as we think of our golden ages. The same logic can be applied to the future, which is even more nebulous since, compared to the past, we can't know anything for certain about it, only make educated guesses. And to this day, we see people who hold on to similar ideas that Lovecraft and others before him believed, romanticizing an ancient and permanent past, while fear-mongering that our civilization is under attack and going under. Yes, Rome did fall, ancient Greece before them, and who knows how many more. Yet the ruins of empire still remain, a permanent monument of their greatest achievements and mistakes. Our own Western civilization owes everything to these fallen giants. Their history is part of what has shaped our society. Will Western civilization also fall one day? Who can say for sure? What I do think is for certain though, is that if it does, our ruins will remain to inspire the next great age. No doubt the next generation will also have reactionaries that claim that their land and culture are dying. Yet there will be those who look to the past and realize that the same thing has been said in every age. The West is in a constant cycle of death and rebirth, and that is not dead which can eternal lie. Just as the past still lives in us, our memory shall live in the future, and so, with strange eons, even death may die.